One of our assets is that we are, I think, one of the most innovative consumer products marketplace in the world. When you look at countries that do tariffs, they protect their own production and don't let innovative products in from other countries. We have allowed that. We have allowed that in, and not just from price, but from innovation.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. And I know a lot of us are very worried watching your 401ks plummet. You're hearing about recession, the tariff, the beautiful world, the beautiful word, tariff, has all of a sudden injected itself in your life. You never thought that was going to happen. And so what I decided to do today was bring on Bruce Kaminstein, founder and former owner of Casabella, an innovative houseware company, small business, but not like a mom and pop company. And he has been involved in international business for over 35 years, contributor on CNBC, and is a member of the New York Angels, which is like angel investors. And so he works with, new businesses, startups, and all that, trying to get them going in the consumer product world. How are you doing today, Bruce?
I am okay. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't, I'm not going to play devil's advocate, but to me, I hear tariffs. Is it raising revenue for the government? We're going to bring back jobs in America. This all sounds good. We're getting, I can't say screwed, but are we getting screwed by all these other countries that impose tariffs? I mean, this kind of, from when I'm looking from afar, it doesn't sound so bad, but every goddamn article that I read in the Wall Street Journal seems to be very critical of it. And I believe that you might as well. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you. You're like involved in the small business world and you have a good say on how, this is going to impact the small business. So give us your take.
Well, let's unpack what a tariff is. First of all, a tariff is paid by the manufacturer or importer at the time the product comes into port. So, for example, if now I can't even keep up with it, but let's say there's a 50% tariff on a product and that product was costing you $2 from whatever country, actually this is from China, it is now going to cost 250. So by the time you make it through the supply chain, it's really 4 to 5 times markup between paying for freight, paying for the retail markup, paying for social media, advertising. So it's 5 times. So that 50 cents really comes to a $2.50 retail on top of what the retail would have been. Number one. Number two is that a typical small innovative company these days designs and patents and works on the product here in the United States and then goes offshore to make the product. This is how it's been for the last 50 years since China has opened up the doors and we as a country has allowed that to happen. Not just China, Vietnam, Europe, most countries, where there are a lot of companies there that will make product for other brands other than themselves. That's a key issue here, Greg, in that if Greg, you came up with a great new idea. Maybe it's the best new pickleball racket that's going to beat everybody on the court. It's very innovative. You don't, you're not necessarily going to open up a factory to make that pickleball racket. You're going to go overseas and find a factory to make that under your specs because there's really not a lot of, I don't think there's any factories here that will make that. And that's most product, a sneaker, a broom, a spatula, anything, just any kind of consumer product, an iPhone, for example, anything. So this is the problem, is that this country, for the last 50 years, we haven't really produced product. And brands do make product and brands do have factories, but they're typically larger companies. About, I think it's 45% of the GDP is small companies in this country. And that's what powers this country with labor. And these companies typically do not have factories. They go overseas. And is right or wrong, this is the way it's been. So the tariff is just a judge. So what happens when the tariff is applied? The importer or manufacturer of the brand has to increase his price to absorb to pay for the tariff because typically they can't just absorb this margin increase. And now we're talking such huge numbers, 50%, 100%, you're doubling the cost almost. There's no way to absorb it. So one is forced to increase the price. Now you're selling to Walmart, Target, to anybody. They don't want to take the price up because they realize that you're taking the price, for example, from 9.99 to 14.95 to 19.99, whatever it is. Sales will soften for the product. For sure they will. So it's a giant squeeze play right now on who's going to take the grunt of this tariff and whether the product will actually even hit the marketplace. I mean, it's really a question right now because these are such huge numbers. That's it. Simple.
Yeah. So a lot of us that are worried are kind of trying to read between the lines. Is Trump really going to impose these tariffs long term? Is this just a bluff? Is he just trying to negotiate with forcing other businesses in other countries to, bend the knee and do all that? But even just hearing what you just said, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, I'm trying to really get a handle on it. I know a lot of people think short term and oh my God, my stock portfolio went down. And he's basically saying, hey, we might have to take a little pain in the short term or whatever. But to me, all right, so I hear we have no factories here, or we don't have a lot of factories to manufacture. Is that a bad thing? And I guess a two-part question, is that a bad thing? And is his approach with the tariffs, um, going to be something that could work? That all right, all of a sudden, a year from now, we'll have a bunch of manufacturing plants that pop up to make spatulas and sneakers and iPhones.
Okay, well let's unpack that question. Number one, I do believe that reciprocal tariffs are wrong, for sure. I mean, I don't think they're right. I'm a free trader. For example, and I don't know for a fact the numbers, I do not have the numbers, and the numbers that he gave out were not really based on reciprocal tariffs. They were based on trade surplus or deficit for each country. But if, for example, the EU charges, and I don't know the exact numbers, but if their tariff is 10% and our import duty is 5%, I do think that's wrong. I do think that it should be level playing field right now. I really do. I think that it's at a time where we built up China to be a really strong consumer country. The EU, I don't think, I mean, tariffs can be used for strategic marketplaces where you need protection, then that's fine and that's okay to do. So I do believe that his approach of doing reciprocal tariffs is right. And I think they should be taken away and we should be able to have free trade from different countries. What I oppose is the quickness and the erraticness of this approach because businesses don't know what to do. And, they employ a lot of people and they have no idea what their, in 3 months, 6 months, what their margin's going to be, or if they're going to be able to sell the product. So this is not an approach. What I would do is get around a table, have a giant summit, and try to level out the playing field and do it the right way. And I don't think it needs to be threat like the way we're doing it. So the uncertainty for businesses is really, really difficult right now. Number two, do we really want factories here? It's a very good question, Greg. Um, for low ticket items, for a 4.99 spatula, I don't know if we'd ever be competitive, even though most factories in China are robotic. It still takes a ton of capital equipment. We have a lot of regulations on environment here, right or wrong. I'm not sure we really want these in our backyard and who's going to work these factories. I'm very confused about that issue. So I'm not really 100% that this is the way to go for a low commodity consumer product. You know, do we want to make expensive bikes, bicycles and value added being here? Maybe. We probably do. Airplanes and cars, but do we really want to become a low commodity producer? I'm not really sure that's the best way for America right now.
So I grew up free trade. Everybody was talking about free trade. The Republicans, to me, my recollection was the Democrats were not really big on free trade, but they sort of went along with the show. And my understanding back in the old days was the benefit of free trade was you were going to spend $4.50 on a spatula as opposed to 8 or 10. So I guess to me, the two parts of the theory that, hey, I'm doing this tariffs, we're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States, which will employ some people that are no longer employed because they were doing manufacturing and now their jobs have been offshored. But A, how long is this going to take to, bring back all this manufacturing? And B, once it is here, are we going to have the same prices or competitive prices? Or, okay, now we got all the manufacturing black, but all these products are now twice as takes it's $100,000 for VW Volkswagen.
Yeah, so again, first of all, it would take a very long time and would have to be a substantial change in our tax policy or subsidies, like more or less like what we hear China does. I mean, how would a small company make a factory here? You know, set up a factory. It's a lot of equipment. It's a lot of robotic equipment. I don't know the numbers, but I can imagine it's way over six figures, depending upon what the industry is. So we would need to figure out how are we going to do these businesses? How are we going to give them substantial subsidies to make it? Number two, are we going to be as an innovative country if we do that? One of our assets is that we are, I think, one of the most innovative consumer products marketplace in the world. When you look at countries that do tariffs, they protect their own production and don't let innovative products in from other countries. We have allowed that. We have allowed that in, and not just from price, but from innovation. You know, I mean, just walk look at a mass merchant, look at Foot Locker, look at sneakers, look at everything. So I think that is, being able to make product from all over the world has allowed a lot of innovation, has allowed us as entrepreneurs to put our money into innovation and not worried about a factory. It's a totally different aspect of business if I'm going to have to all of a sudden get machines and robotic machines and open up a factory as opposed to I'm putting my cash into great product developers, great marketers, great graphic people. It's a whole different animal.
So in the startup world and small businesses, as you were involved in and still are involved in, you point out that you only have so much money, and are you going to spend it on building a manufacturing plant and putting out some garbage products, or trying to innovate and make a high-end houseware product, which is what you were doing for years, that a lot of the market wanted. So to me, I mean, you're the one that you lived through this. Is this all right? Hey, I'm a startup. What do I care? I'll build a manufacturing plant. Or is this a legitimate concern? I don't have enough money to do both. If I want to get my startup going, I got to come up with a good, beautiful idea or a beautiful product, and that's going to cost me money. I can't spend all that money on some plant and then have no product.
It's impossible for a startup to build a plant before the product's on the market. Why would a startup spend a huge amount of money, capital, opening up a factory before he knows that the product is even successful? Why wouldn't we make that product in an offshore country, make sure the product sells, and then look, if it's the way to go and it makes sense and you can get enough capital to make it here, that's fine, then do it. But why would you, if you, again, using the example of a pickleball racket, I'm saying that, Greg, because I just played, and it was the best new racket because I want to beat you this summer. And I made all the bells and whistles in this racket. And why would I think? I mean, how much would it cost me to open up that factory? Why wouldn't I just go to a country that would make this racket for me, test out the idea, make sure that it's the greatest racket that could beat Gregg in pickleball and everybody else? And then, you know, I will do the calculation, see how I raise money to open up a factory or what have you. But for sure, you're not going to do that right away.
You know, pickleball is a wonderful game, and I have seen you in action, and I'm worried that you now have a better product, a better pickleball racket. That's not even fair. It almost sounds like, let's go back to the reciprocal tariffs because I have to be honest, I'd never heard of reciprocal tariffs until, the last whatever 6 months, 3 months. What explain to the audience what reciprocal tariffs are, which is something that you said you're basically in favor of. You're good with that.
Yes. So some countries have higher tariffs than we do in different product categories. And again, I don't know the actual numbers, and this is all just what I hear. For example, in Europe, in the EU, I think they have a higher tariff on our cars than we have on cars coming in from Germany to the US. I don't know what the numbers are, and it's pure speculative, but this is what I'm told. This is what I'm told by the administration. For sure, China has tariffs, higher tariffs on our products going into China than they are going out. And I think that is, at this point in our journey, I think it's wrong. So I think it should be leveled out. For example, if the EU on that pickleball racket, because I just use that racket, is 15% to go into selling in Germany, and if Germany is producing it and it's 5% here, that's a reciprocal tariff. And Germany, has a 10% advantage than we do. So I just think that it should be leveled. It should be 5%, 0%, whatever it is, country to country. I
All right,
think we're
now
at a point in our globalization, call it, that it should almost be equal by
so
country.
I don't know if this is up your your specialty, but I guess one of when I'm knee jerking my reaction to what how this plays out, one of the things that I imagine is that all right, all these countries now can't export their goods to the United States because of these tariffs or what have you. Is this going to boomerang in the sense that they're all going to unite against us and sort of say, all right, we're going to open up our trade to each other and let's screw the United States
It
and
could,
we'll send it off to you guys.
it
Europe,
could.
you
China could make a deal with the EU. Who knows? I mean, there are different trading blocks. It's really open right now. I have no idea how this ends. I mean, anybody with a crystal ball can predict this. It's really difficult. I don't know. I really don't. This administration is playing hardball, right or wrong, to try to level these tariffs. And I just, small businesses and medium businesses are caught in the squeeze, and the uncertainty moving forward is really, really difficult for these businesses. And that's my passion right now because I was a small businessman, medium-sized businessman, and we needed certainty. I invest in angel investing in consumer products, and that's going to be shut off right now, I would imagine, because who knows what the gross margin is going to be for that company at this point, depending upon where they make the product and can they reshore it from a different country, and will that country be attacked? Because it's really not really feasible to make it here.
yeah,
That's the point. Maybe, if it's a single material like a plastic product, there are a lot of companies that inject plastic without a lot of labor, and that you can make here. If it's a single plastic product, you can make that here. But the minute you put different materials that need to be attached to it, I don't see it.
yeah. So I want to, I did a lot of research for this show, Bruce. I want to let you know. And few things I picked up I wanted to share. One, apparently even before the tariffs came into place, the labor market basically shows that the manufacturers of the United States cannot even find enough people to work in those jobs, even though sometimes those jobs are higher paying than, let's just say, a teacher's salary. Um, and the Pew Research, they did an analysis where, I guess people don't want to do these types of jobs, not even for the pay, but I guess for the, it sounds good. It doesn't say I'm a manufacturer. It does, like in the old days, I guess things like that sounded good. Number two, even the Republicans are coming out against this. Ken Griffith, the billionaire hedge fund Citadel guy, called the tariffs a huge policy mistake. Bill Ackman, Jamie Dimon, J.P. Morgan's predicting 60% chance of a global recession. And in my world, the legal world, I was doing a little research to analyze, how he was able to do this. And he's got some work around this one statute that never has been used to justify it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do that. So I know that there was at least one lawsuit that was filed under the major questions doctrine. I know you're not a lawyer. Basically saying that, his approach to this is not legally justified. So we'll see where that plays out. But Bruce, I'm going to give you the last word. What's your prediction? Is this going to be something that 3 months from now, everybody's just going to bend the knee, and we're going to, the stock market's going to go back and we're not even going to worry about this? Or what's your take?
Really difficult. I don't really know. I don't really have the answer. I mean, I think this is going to cause major inflation for sure. People have to raise their prices, and a lot of companies are just using this excuse right now to raise prices, even if the product's made in the United States. So this is a really good time for a company if they're working on a lower margin just to increase the price. So this will cause inflation. I do believe, look, the market had a blip up today because they're suspending the reciprocal tariffs for 90 days, but not from China. It could go either way. I am saddened by the small, medium-sized company trying to deal with this and trying to figure out the best way to go. I really don't know at this point. Maybe in a week we'll know. We'll have more clarity. For sure, we do not have the labor force, I don't think, to make all our product here. And do we have the ability and do we have the know-how and do we want to do that? It's a big question. It needs to be answered really, really soon.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, that'll do it for this episode. I do want to say that I don't care what racket you got, you're gonna wipe the floor with me because you're a passionate guy,
I hope so, Greg.
focused.
I hope so. I hope so. Let's hope so. We'll play this summer. We'll see.
All right, Bruce Kaminstein, founder and former owner of Casabella, small business guy, angel investor with the New York Angels. Hopefully, I know we had talked earlier about the sneaker guy, and hopefully these startups are going to make it happen.
We sure hope so.
Bruce,
We
thanks
sure
for
hope
coming
so.
on short notice, and let's just hope for the best. All right.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.